Hi, and welcome to my presentation. I'm going to be focusing on one particular aspect of communication that can be extremely valuable in life and in your job, and that's creativity. Hopefully everyone's going to get a job, and almost every single job requires some amount of group work. In these groups, coworkers will get together and discuss new product lines and new ways to solve problems, and a whole bunch of other types of issues that face corporations. Listed on the slide are topics that I'm going to be covering to explore how to bring creative thinking into group settings. To come up with these so-called products, employees need to be creative. The boring answers to questions like what new product should we launch don't fix the problems. They're empty responses that get the group nowhere. To be successful, everyone has to contribute to the brainstorming of potential solutions. The problem is lots of people think they're not creative, and the best way to fight this is to fully understand creativity. We throw around words like creative and creativity because we're taught to be creative, quotes, at such a young age. But creativity is so valuable, especially in business. So how important is it actually? In a 2010 survey that IBM asked executives from different industries what they thought was the most important factor of success, and the study found that creativity was considered the most important. The word creativity has been the #1 buzzword on LinkedIn for the past 2 years. And these buzzwords are what corporations look at when reviewing resumes and interviews to find out if creativity is important to potential employees. Anyone can say that they're creative, but to deliver on that claim, you have to know how to be creative. Companies want risk takers. If an executive launches only products that succeed, that means they aren't taking the necessary risk to create new products. Taking risk pushes these companies to expand into new areas, and that's the root of progress. To take risks and be creative, we have to arrive at a point where we must change something or take action. This is when we are posed with the problem. To solve this problem, we have to think, and creativity is a product of thinking. Thinking is logical, creative, analytical, and artistic. Basically, it's a catalyst for everything that we do. But being creative is not as simple as just thinking. Being creative is dependent on the environment, your psychological anatomy, the group you're working within, and your ability to harness your own creativity. The best way to transform thought into creativity is through practice and understanding how creativity actually works. It's pretty obvious that your brain controls what you do, but your brain is divided into two sides or hemispheres, the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere. The left hemisphere focuses on the logical processes, like your speech and the language you use to communicate that speech, your writing skills and mathematical reasoning. This is the side that you use in school. It processes logical, linear, and rational concepts. It also focuses on identifying patterns, which is how our brain likes to organize things. Your right brain is more holistic, meaning this side of your brain is more imaginative, more visionary, and abstract. This is where creativity stems from. However, contrary to what everyone pretty much thinks, each person uses both sides of their brains. Recent studies have shown that the two sides are not that separate. It's simply used to describe tendencies. The difference in tendencies exists from person to person, between genders, and between cultures. And one example of this is a recent study found that boys tend to be more right hemisphere oriented, while girls are more left hemisphere oriented. But the most important point is that every person has the ability to be creative. Creativity is achieved by combining the best of both hemispheres and putting them together to create one idea. Too often, we put ourselves in situations where we think creativity is wrong. Some researchers suggest this stems from elementary school, where we're told to color between the lines and stay within these boundaries. But this plays on a very important function that our brain serves, and that's seeking out patterns. To encourage ourselves to break from these patterns, we need self-efficacy. which is the belief that you have the ability to produce creative outcomes. More simply put, you believe you can do it. You believe you can be creative. Second, we need motivation. This motivation has to come from an environment that promotes creativity. This can be a boss who values difference of opinion, or a company that promotes creativity through free thinking environments. A lot of times this environment is overshadowed by deadlines and pressures kill creativity. Most often, the best, most creative solutions do not come immediately. The other thing that takes time is getting to know your group, because feeling comfortable with group members is the only way we feel safe enough to share our craziest ideas. And the craziest ideas often result with the best solutions. To be comfortable with your team, you must understand where they are coming from. Groups need variety, and each of the bullet points, diversity, culture, language, and gender, indicate areas where group members might be unique. Each of these unique qualities bring different perspectives. When people have different perspectives, they look at problems in different ways. And a variety of perspectives leads to solutions that appeal to a wider audience. When you synthesize all of these solutions, or put them all together, you can create a solution that addresses the problem the best. But, like any process, there are roadblocks. Some roadblocks are personal, and they occur within your own mind. For example, mind blocks are assumptions about how people should act. This closes off the ability to think creatively. They slam the creative doors closed in your mind. Using phrases such as "that's not logical," or "I'm not creative," or "follow the rules" can shut down the creative process. They limit creativity by creating limitations. They restrict thought into a specific area, and most dooming, they put pressure on the group. Remember, pressure kills creativity. Evaluating ideas too early can also reduce creativity. When you stop the creative process, you lose out on its potential. The best way to stop this from happening is verbally agree at the beginning that we will not assess or evaluate any ideas until tomorrow, or next week, or whatever fits within the deadlines. That not only restricts the evaluation process, but also calms down people who focus on the deadline. This creates a timeline that allows everyone to focus on the brainstorming process. The other clue is silence is golden. When you wait out an awkward, silent pause, the best ideas come right after. The reason for this is either because 1, someone is throwing out a crazy idea to break the awkwardness with humor, or 2, they revisited ideas that were already mentioned, but they further develop it. So now how can you get started? There are quite a few ways that groups, companies, leaders, etc. can start the creative process. The one we've all heard of the most is brainstorming. Most of us are familiar with round-robin structure of throwing out ideas, but most of the time we haven't thought them through, and they're the most obvious solutions. These aren't always the best. True brainstorming focuses on quantity, not quality. Remember, here there's no analyzing, no judging, just ideas, and lots of them. Another method is metaphorical thinking. Here, you take two things and make a comparison between the two of them. When you look at similarities between two things, you start seeing connections that you never saw before, or aren't necessarily the most obvious. Metaphors are often wild and out there, but that's the key to creativity. The last suggestion I have is fantasy chaining. This often happens spontaneously, but it's a way of releasing tension within a group. It can also trigger insights that might not be the most obvious among everybody involved. This system requires that group members listen to each other and then stem off what other people are saying. This also helps group members understand each other's perspectives. It's pretty obvious that every one of us will need to work in a group environment, and so the ability to work in groups is extremely valuable. Any company is going to value that in a future employee, so it will make you an excellent candidate to join their team. Use some of these techniques next time you're in a group you find yourself stumped on a problem. Chances are you'll be able to figure it out. Thanks for watching.